Hi guys, I'm Lauren Vitale. On this episode of Lauren in the Kitchen, I want to share with you how to make a really easy but fantastic and show-stopping summer bread pudding. It's beautiful to look at, feeds the crowd so happily. You can make it the day ahead if you want to entertain and you want to serve it at your dinner party. It's fabulous and it's so easy. Let me run you through the list of ingredients, which are not very hard. You're going to need mixed berries. So I've got strawberries, blackberries, blueberries, raspberries, water. I've got some lemon, and I've got some vanilla sugar. If you don't have vanilla sugar, by all means, just use regular granulated sugar with a little bit of vanilla extract. But I encourage you to make vanilla sugar because it is one of life's greatest gifts, and having it in my pantry makes me feel a lot safer at night. Okay, you're also going to need some bread, obviously, but I'm going to need to make my berry mixture first. So let's move this over here to me. In a saucepan, you're going to need to add all your berries. You need some water, some vanilla sugar. If any of my pieces of vanilla beans go in there, it's fine because it's just going to add more flavor. Plus, I need to make a fresh batch anyway, so I'm okay with that. It just has the most fantastic smell in the entire world. Just a little bit more. See, those little vanilla beans, even though they're dry, when they sit in those hot juices, they'll soften and just give a lot of really good flavor. And then the juice of half of a lemon. Now all I'm going to do is give this a really good stir. And this is a bread pudding. I'm sure you're familiar with regular bread pudding. You make a custard, you put it, with bread. You can do a ton of different variations. I've shared tons with you. And then you bake it. This is not a baked version, so it's perfect for summertime. I'm just going to pop this onto the stove over about medium heat or so. And it needs to cook for 8 to 10 minutes, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's there. This looks great. I've let it cool for a while. It's still warm, but it's been cooling for a while because it was so hot you couldn't work with it when it was first done. It did cook for 10 minutes exactly, and as you can see, it's runny. It's got plenty pieces of fruit running through it. It's perfect. What I have here is some challah bread that I've just sliced in about 1/2-inch slices or so. Then what I have is a 2-quart souffle dish. You can use a 9-inch springform pan. You can use whatever container you have. If you want to use a bucket, by all means use a bucket. I mean, it doesn't matter to me. All I care about is that you line it with some plastic wrap, and you can see I've used several layers of plastic wrap, and I do a terrible job, but it's the best I got. So I'm not good at a lot of things, and this is one of them. You take your bread, and you just kind of have to, as you can see from what I'm doing, if you can just come right in, you have to kind of cut this bread to fit. You got to make sure that you see that piece right there. You don't want an empty piece, but what you have to remember is that this is essentially going to be the top of your dish, so you want it to look as nice as possible. So I'm going to cut this as best as I can. If it fits perfectly, great. If it doesn't, it's going to be good. So just want to make one layer. See what I did there? I just kind of cut a piece like that to fit, and then I just take these little pieces. Now I'm using challah bread, which is one of my favorite breads to use, and it's definitely my favorite bread to make any kind of bread pudding with, but also the crust is really soft, so I don't have to cut it off. But if you feel like if you're using like a white bread or anything like that, I would cut the crust off if the crust happens to be too thick. So I'm going to just make sure that the bottom is perfectly layered with the bread, which it seems to be, and then I'm just going to take whatever slices like that, and I'm just going to put them around. And you can push and press, it's fine, it's no biggie, it's expected. And then you just start taking this juice mixture. Now I have a lot here because I plan on having extra for serving, plus a different recipe that I'm thinking of. Can't even speak clearly. But you want to make sure that you put quite enough of the berry mixture, because that's going to seep through the bread. And this is going to sit in the fridge overnight, so it needs plenty of that sauce to soak into it. So now you have your first layer, And now what you do is you just kind of repeat. You want to make sure that you have, you see I don't need a whole lot here because my dish is pretty small, plus I've got the bread all around. Then you just put a little bit more on top. So you basically just kind of continue to layer until your top layer is your bread, and then you just take your plastic, right? You fold it over top like this. This is so easy, it's like ridiculous, but it's fantastic. I really, really think you'll love it. You put it over top like that. Then you take a plate, press it, then you take a can of some sort. You take something heavy. You press it on top. This is gonna go in the fridge overnight. Minimum for me anyway, it takes a good 12 to 14 hours for this to set the way it needs to be. I wanna show you what it looks like tomorrow. Well, for you it'll be like in a few seconds. For me, it'll be tomorrow. I'm gonna save the rest of this mixture, some of it anyway, for serving anyway, because I like to spoon it on top. And then some of it I'm gonna fold in some ice cream. It's gonna be amazing, but that's for me to know and for you to maybe find out. All right, so I'm gonna pop this in the fridge and I'll show you what it looks like tomorrow. You can see it really has gone down so much because we were pressing it. I ended up having to put a smaller plate on top of it so that I could really make sure that the plate was pushing down on the bread pudding. Now all I've done is, of course, I've unwrapped the plastic. And you just want to put a platter on top of it, something that's got some sort of a side. And then you just kind of carefully flip it. You pull down like that. Lovely. Now if you want to, you can put a lot more juice, and you can also put a layer at the bottom. I don't like to do that because I find that when you invert it, it just becomes so incredibly messy. That's why I like to have more sauce on the side. That way I can top it with extra sauce once we invert it. I think of everything. I try to anyway. Now, what happens to the sauce too, the berry mixture, as it sits in the fridge, it thickens as well. So I just like to pour this right over the top. I'm gonna clean up my little platter. I'm gonna drizzle this like that. I mean, look at that. That way you can see the berries. It doesn't turn into a giant mess when you go to invert it. It's just really perfect this way, and it always ensures that your summer bread pudding doesn't turn into a summer mess. Just gonna pour this a little bit more on top, clean up, and then we'll slice and serve. Doesn't that look just gorgeous? I love the look of this. I think it's spectacular. It is quite, rich, of course, so a little goes a long way, but it is perfection on every level. I'm just gonna cut a slice. Let's look at this beauty. Look at that. I mean, I just love it. I'm going to try and show you here. I just love it because you see, by putting just enough fruit and juice in between each layer, allows the bread to soak up the perfect amount without it being so wet and loose from the juice that it doesn't hold together. That's why I prefer to add some and keep the rest on the side for extra helpings, and then of course pour some on top. But this to me is everything. Now what you need to do, this is a necessity, you need to top this with some vanilla ice cream. I'm not going to embarrass myself right now, so I'm just going to try it as is, but you should top it with some really good vanilla ice cream or even whipped cream, just something creamy and cool and just delicious. This is like everything. Okay, it really is. It's like the interior texture of like traditional bread pudding, but just light and fresh, not too sweet, although you can definitely adjust that if you want it to be sweeter, add more sugar. It's fabulous. Go to LauraInTheKitchen.com to get this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed spending time with me. This does last well for a couple of days. If you want to make it ahead of time and keep it in the containers for up to 2 days, you can certainly do that, which means you need to make this weekend. Hope you've enjoyed spending time with me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.